They found Chidi's body 3 days after he whistled. His mouth was still frozen in that shape, like he'd been trying to call something back. But by then, it was too late. My name is Amora, and I'm about to tell you why my grandmother's warning wasn't just some old village superstition. It was a death sentence she was trying to help us avoid. This happened in Afikpo, a village in Ebonyi State, Nigeria, where the palm trees grow so thick they swallow the moonlight, and where some sounds should never leave your lips after sunset. Because in my village, when you whistle at night, you're not just making noise. You're speaking a language. And trust me, you don't want to know what answers back. But I'm getting ahead of myself. Let me take you back to where it all began, 3 months ago, when my cousin Chidi came home from America. Chidi was the golden child. 28 years old, fresh MBA from Atlanta, designer clothes, American accent that made all the village girls giggle. He'd been gone for 6 years, and honestly, he'd forgotten what it meant to be from Afikpo. I remember the night he arrived. The whole compound gathered. Mama brought out the kola nut, Papa poured libation for the ancestors. But Chidi was on his phone the entire time. Didn't even touch the palm wine. These old traditions, he laughed to me later that evening. We were sitting outside, the air thick with the smell of night flowers and kerosene lamps. Amora, you're educated. You went to university in Lagos. You don't actually believe in this ancestor worship stuff, right? I should have warned him then. Should have told him that education doesn't erase truth, it just makes you think you're smarter than it. The old people know things, I said carefully. He scoffed. The old people are stuck in the past. That's when Mama Neka appeared. Our grandmother, 93 years old, eyes like black stones that saw through everything. She moved silently, the way old women in our village do, like shadows with purpose. Chidi, she said in Igbo, her voice like dried leaves. You have forgotten the rules. What rules, Mama? He was humoring her, that American smile plastered on his face. Never whistle after the sun sets. Never call out to the darkness. Never answer a voice you hear at night unless you see who speaks. The boundary between words is thin here. Respect it. Chidi actually laughed. Right in her face. Mama, this is 2024. There are no spirits. No juju. Just stories to scare children. The entire compound went silent. Even the crickets stopped chirping. Mama Neka's face didn't change, but something in her eyes went dark. Then you will learn, she said quietly. Some lessons can only be taught one way. She turned and walked away, her wrapper dragging in the red dirt. What's her problem? Chidi muttered. I felt cold despite the humid night air. You shouldn't have done that. Done what? Refused to believe in fairy tales. He stood up, stretched. I'm going for a walk. Clear my head. It's past 9, Chidi. Stay in the compound. But he was already walking toward the village path, his phone flashlight cutting through the darkness. That's when I heard it. A whistle. Clear, melodic, drifting back from where Chidi had disappeared into the palm grove. He was whistling. At night. In Afikpo. Nothing happened that first night. Chidi came back an hour later, all smiles, talking about how peaceful the village was, how he'd forgotten the smell of night air. But the next morning, things changed. I woke to screaming. Mama Neka's voice, high and sharp like a machete cutting air. I ran outside in my wrapper, feet bare on the compound bed. The chickens were dead. All 15 of them, arranged in a perfect circle in the center of the compound, their necks twisted backward. Not broken. Twisted. Like someone had slowly, carefully, turned their heads 180 degrees while they were still alive. And in the middle of the circle, a single palm frond, tied in a knot that our people only use for one thing. ancestral warning. Who did this? Papa demanded, but everyone knew. Everyone felt it. Something had answered Chidi's whistle. But here's where it gets strange. Are you ready for this? Because this is the first twist. Chidi had no memory of whistling. I didn't whistle, he insisted, confusion genuine in his eyes. Amora, I swear to you, I was just walking. I was on my phone. I didn't whistle. We all heard it, I said. Then someone else was out there. He looked scared now, the American confidence cracking. Someone was following me. Mama Neka said nothing. She just watched him with those ancient eyes, like she was waiting for something. The next night, it happened again. Same time. 9:30 p.m. Chidi was inside this time, sitting with us, eating pounded yam and egusi soup. The whole family, right there in the parlor. And then, the whistle came from outside. But it was Chidi's whistle. His exact melody. The same tune he'd been humming all day, some American song from his phone. Chidi went white. That's not me. We can see that, Papa said, standing up slowly. Stay inside. Everyone stay inside. But curiosity, that terrible human weakness, got the better of my brother, Emeka. He went to the window, pressed his face against the burglar bars. There's someone out there, he whispered. In the palm grove. Standing at the edge of the compound. What do they look like? I asked, though something in me didn't want to know. Emeka's voice came out strange, hollow. Like Chidi. Think about that for a second. Something that looked exactly like Chidi, standing outside in the darkness, whistling with his voice. What would you do? For 3 days, we didn't let Chidi leave the compound after sunset. The whistling continued, every night, always at 9:30, always Chidi's tune. But during the day, things got worse. Chidi started changing. Small things at first. He'd forget conversations we just had. He'd speak Igbo in his sleep, perfect fluent Igbo, even though he'd forgotten most of it in America. And his eyes. Sometimes when light hit them a certain way, they looked completely black. No whites. Just black. He needs a dibia, Mama Neka finally said. A traditional healer. The thing outside is trying to replace him. Replace him? I said. Mama, what are you talking about? That's when she told us the real story. And this is where everything you thought you knew gets turned upside down. 70 years ago, Mama Neka began, her voice distant. There was a man in this village named Chidi. Your grandfather's older brother. He was brilliant, ambitious, wanted to leave for the city. But the family needed him to stay, to help with the farm, to honor the ancestors. She looked directly at my cousin Chidi. He refused. Said the old ways were foolish. That ancestors were just dead people with no power. So he whistled. At midnight. On the night of the new moon. He whistled to prove nothing would happen. What happened to him? I whispered. He disappeared for 3 days. When he came back, he was different. He agreed to stay in the village. Married. Had children. Lived here until he died. She leaned forward. But it wasn't him. The real Chidi never came back from whatever took him that night. What returned wore his face but had something else behind the eyes. My blood went cold. That thing, she continued, lived in this family for 40 years before it finally left. When it did, it left behind a curse. Every generation, one child would be named Chidi. And when that Chidi turned their back on the family, on the ancestors, on the old ways, the original Chidi would come back. To take their place. To get the life he was denied. You're saying, Chidi's voice was shaking, that thing outside is my great-grand-uncle. And it wants to, what? Live my life. It wants to be you, Mama Neka said simply. And every night you refuse to let it in, you get weaker, and it gets stronger. The whistling is the calling. It's not summoning spirits. It's the replacement announcing itself. Asking permission to enter. But I never gave permission. You did. She pointed at him. When you whistled that first night. When you mocked the ancestors. When you broke the rules. You opened the door. And now it's waiting for you to open it all the way. Here's the twist you didn't see coming. Mama Neka stood up, and suddenly she didn't look frail anymore. She looked ancient, powerful, like something much older than 93 years. I need to confess something, she said. I am not your grandmother. The room froze. I am the last Dibia of Afikpo. The real Mama Neka died 20 years ago. I took her place to watch over this family, to wait for the curse to manifest again. Because the original Chidi. He was my son. And I have spent 70 years trying to undo what I did. What did you do? I asked, though part of me already knew. I was young. Desperate. My husband had died, and I needed my son to stay, to help me survive. So I went to a dark Dibia, one who practiced the forbidden arts. I asked him to make my son stay. She closed her eyes. He did. But the price was that the real Chidi was trapped between worlds. And the thing that replaced him, it could never truly die. It just waits, in every generation, for another Chidi to reject the family. To feel what it felt. Betrayal. So how do we stop it? Chidi was on his feet now. You have to let it in, she said. And then you have to forgive it. What? The curse continues because of anger, resentment, the refusal to release. The original Chidi must be released, must be forgiven for what he became. Only the current Chidi can do that. Only you can face it, accept what it is, and let it go. That night, at 9:30, Chidi walked outside. We all watched from the windows as he approached the figure at the edge of the compound. In the moonlight, it looked exactly like him, down to the scar on his left eyebrow from a childhood fall. They stood facing each other. Then Chidi did something that made my heart stop. He whistled. The same tune. And the thing whistled back. Then Chidi spoke, his voice carrying in the night air. I'm sorry. Sorry you were trapped. Sorry you never got to choose. Sorry we forgot you, erased you, pretended you never existed. You can rest now. You don't have to keep coming back. The figure didn't move for a long moment. Then, slowly, impossibly, it smiled. Not a sinister smile. A grateful one. And it vanished. Not dramatically, not with smoke or sound. It was just gone. Like it had never been there at all. Chidi collapsed. We ran outside, carried him in. He slept for 3 days straight. When he woke up, he was different. Quieter. More humble. He still went back to America eventually, but now he video calls every week. Sends money. Came back for the New Yam festival. He remembers the rules now. But here's what keeps me up at night. Last month, my brother Emeka had a son. And you know what they named him, following tradition? Chidi. The cycle continues. Different now, maybe. Less malevolent. But the name carries weight, carries memory, carries something we still don't fully understand. And 2 weeks ago, little Chidi, only 3 months old, made a sound in his sleep that made everyone in the room go silent. It sounded exactly like a whistle. So let me leave you with this. That warning about not whistling at night. It's not just in Nigeria. Every culture has some version of it. South Africa, Kenya, Ghana, Zimbabwe. Even here in the West, Native American tribes, Celtic traditions, Asian cultures. all say the same thing. Don't whistle at night. Maybe it's because we all learn the same lesson, in different ways, across different generations. That there are things in the darkness that listen. That answer. That wait for an invitation. And a whistle. It's the perfect invitation. Innocent. Thoughtless. Just a sound you make without thinking. Until you realize that thinking is exactly what you should have been doing. So tonight, when you're alone, and that tune gets stuck in your head, and your lips start to pass, remember Chidi. Remember what answered. And ask yourself, are you absolutely sure you're alone? Because somewhere, in the space between worlds, something is always listening. Always waiting. Always ready to answer when you call. And trust me, you will never whistle at night after this. Never. This story is based on real folklore from Igbo culture and traditions across Africa. The prohibition against whistling at night exists in numerous cultures worldwide. Whether you believe or not, maybe it's better to be safe than sorry. What's your culture's warning about nighttime? Drop it in the comments.